Emma watched her daughter crawl toward the enormous German shepherd once again, her heart clenching with an emotion she couldn't quite name. This peculiar ritual had been repeating itself for weeks now, and something about it filled her with inexplicable dread. Little Sophie, barely 16 months old, would drag herself across the carpet each morning, stopping mere inches from the giant dog's muzzle. There, they would remain, child and canine, in what seemed like wordless communication. When chaos finally erupted one autumn evening, Emma learned a truth that would haunt and humble her forever. The weight of single motherhood, sleep, had become a luxury Emma could no longer afford. Dark crescents framed her eyes, badges of exhaustion earned through endless nights of solo parenting. Her life had transformed into a relentless marathon, managing deadlines from her home office while simultaneously attending to Sophie's every need. Thor, the massive German shepherd, had belonged to her deceased uncle. When he passed 18 months earlier, Emma inherited both his countryside cottage and the 140-pound animal that prowled its halls. Initially, she'd welcomed the companionship. Now, juggling an infant and a dog the size of a small pony felt like attempting to hold water in her bare hands. "Thor, move, please," Emma pleaded one frantic morning, attempting to squeeze past him while juggling Sophie and a mountain of clean diapers. The shepherd remained planted like an oak tree outside Sophie's bedroom, unmovable and unapologetic. "Honestly, you're making everything harder," she muttered, frustration bleeding through her words. The strange connection. What truly unnerved Emma was Sophie's fixation on Thor. Each day, without fail, the moment Emma placed her daughter on the floor after meals, Sophie would make a beeline for the dog. But these weren't ordinary toddler interactions, were marathon staring contests, lasting 10, sometimes 15 minutes. Sophie would position herself eye level with Thor's face, her expression unnaturally solemn for someone so young. Her gaze would bore into his amber eyes, as though decoding some hidden message. "What secrets are you two sharing?" Emma would ask nervously, attempting to laugh away her discomfort. Then Sophie began mirroring Thor's every action. When he settled onto his haunches, Sophie would drop down identically beside him. When his paw touched a particular floorboard, Sophie's tiny hand would follow to the exact spot. Most unsettling were the sounds Sophie would murmur, soft, deliberate noises at Thor. Unlike any baby babble Emma had heard before, it sounded almost like conversation. "Kids get obsessed with animals," her sister Maria rationalized over coffee. "My son used to howl at our neighbor's poodle for 3 solid months." But Emma's instincts screamed that this was different. This wasn't fascination. This was something purposeful. Breaking point. Everything collapsed on a Wednesday evening. Emma's most important client demanded emergency provisions with an impossible deadline. Sophie had been crying inconsolably all afternoon. Thor had shattered her favorite vase while shadowing her between rooms. Emma's composure finally cracked, along with the pottery scattered across the wooden floor. "Enough," she yelled, her voice fracturing under pressure. "Thor, go outside. I cannot handle you right now." The shepherd's ears drooped, but he refused to budge from his post outside Sophie's room. His muscles tensed, his focus laser-locked on the closed door behind him. "Are you ignoring me? Out now." Emma seized his collar, attempting to drag him toward the back exit. "I have deadlines. Sophie needs her evening routine. I don't have energy for your stubbornness." Thor resisted, his nails scraping wood, a plaintive whine emerging from deep in his chest, a sound she'd never heard him make. "Fine. Stay there and be difficult." She released him and marched away, hands trembling with guilt and overwhelm. Perhaps keeping her uncle's dog had been a mistake. Perhaps Thor deserved a family with time to properly care for him. People who wouldn't resent his presence. The alarm that changed everything. Emma was folding laundry when Thor's bark shattered the evening calm. Not his typical lazy announcement, but a desperate, primal sound that sent ice through her veins. Another bark erupted, then another, each one more frantic and urgent. Terror seized Emma's chest. She abandoned the clothes and sprinted toward Sophie's room. Her daughter was standing in her crib, face crimson from tears, but appeared unharmed. Relief flooded through Emma before anger quickly replaced it. "Thor, why would you scare me?" Then she noticed the nightlight on the dresser adjacent to the crib. It had toppled over, its cord stretched across the floor. But this wasn't a simple accident. The cord's insulation had torn away, revealing exposed copper wiring that sparked intermittently against the metal crib frame. Sophie's small fingers had been reaching toward it, millimeters away, when Thor had thrown himself between them. Reality crystallized with horrifying clarity. Emma understood exactly how close her daughter had come to grasping that live current. How Sophie's tiny body would have completed the electrical circuit. How 30 seconds more delay could have meant her knees buckled. She grabbed Sophie from the crib, trembling so violently she feared dropping her. The baby wailed against her neck as Emma stumbled backward from the sparking hazard, gasping for breath. "Please. No, please." She fumbled for her phone, barely coherent, as she reported the emergency to the dispatcher. Thor remained frozen beside the crib, his gaze never wavering from Sophie, even as Emma carried her to safety. Understanding dawns. Emergency responders arrived swiftly. A silver-haired firefighter examined the outlet and emerged with a grave expression. "Ma'am, this outlet's been failing for quite some time. With this level of exposure, if your daughter had made contact with that wire..." He glanced at Sophie in Emma's arms. A child this small, the electrical shock would have traveled directly through her heart. Emma collapsed to the floor, still clutching her daughter, tears coursing down her face. "I didn't realize. I never saw." Almost the words died in her throat. The firefighter crouched beside her. "But nothing happened. Your dog prevented it." He stroked Thor's head, and the shepherd's tail gave one solid thump. "Dogs can detect electrical currents, hear frequencies we can't perceive. This fellow probably sensed trouble long before the wire split. That's why he wouldn't leave your daughter's doorway." Emma stared at Thor through blurred vision. All those times he'd hovered near Sophie's room, all those moments Emma had been irritated by his persistent presence, interpreting it as neediness or obstinacy. He'd been standing guard, protecting Sophie from invisible danger that no human sense could detect. Suddenly, everything made sense, with devastating clarity. Sophie's intense sessions with Thor hadn't been playing. She'd been responding to his protective vigilance. Some primal understanding had passed between guardian and child. The mimicry, the sounds, the calm Sophie displayed in Thor's presence, it had all been there, screaming for attention, while Emma had been too exhausted to listen. Redemption and understanding. After the responders departed and the outlet was repaired, Emma returned to Sophie's room. Thor lay in his customary position outside the door, head resting on his paws, his eyes holding what seemed like patient forgiveness. Emma sank down beside him, Sophie still in her embrace. Words failed her at first. Then, barely audible, she whispered, "I'm sorry." Thor's tail swept once across the floor. "I called you stubborn. I tried pushing you away, and you were protecting her life this entire time." Fresh tears fell as Emma pressed her free hand into Thor's thick fur. "You tried warning me, and I refused to understand." Sophie wriggled free and immediately crawled to Thor, pressing her face against his broad head. The dog's tail swept in slow, forgiving arcs. "Uncle David always said you were extraordinary," Emma murmured, scratching behind Thor's ears. "I should have believed him. I should have believed you." That evening, Emma placed a proper dog bed in Sophie's room, plush and substantial, positioned where Thor could monitor both the crib and doorway. She also contacted her uncle's veterinarian, who'd known Thor since puppyhood. "Oh, absolutely," the vet confirmed when Emma described Thor's behavior. "Thor was originally trained as a service animal for a child with severe allergies and asthma. He could detect environmental threats, alert to dangers before they manifested. He retired due to arthritis, but that training becomes part of their nature. Your uncle understood Thor's capabilities perfectly." Emma ended the call and really observed Thor, perhaps truly for the first time since inheriting him. This wasn't simply her uncle's pet. This was a trained sentinel, a protector with skills she'd been too overwhelmed to recognize. Somehow, he'd transferred that guardian instinct to Sophie, the way he'd once protected another vulnerable child. A new understanding. From that day forward, Emma never questioned Thor's intuition. When he positioned himself between Sophie and the staircase, Emma paid attention. When he blocked Sophie from entering the kitchen during cooking, Emma understood. The silent dialogue between dog and child continued. But now Emma was learning their language too. "You seem different," Maria observed during a visit. "More centered somehow." Emma smiled, watching Sophie nap with her tiny hand resting on Thor's side, both breathing in synchronized peace. "I learned to trust what I cannot see," she replied quietly. "Sometimes the boundary between tragedy and safety is guarded not by those we expect, but by those we dismiss. What we perceive as inconvenience often masks what we cannot detect them. Hidden dangers, lurking in familiar spaces. The silent threats that only instinct can sense. In our exhaustion and impatience, we forget that protection doesn't always arrive conveniently. Sometimes it manifests as disruption, as stubbornness, as an unwavering presence that refuses to abandon its post. And sometimes, our greatest guardian has been beside us all along, waiting patiently for us to finally perceive what our limited senses could never reveal alone. If this story resonated with you, share it with those who need reminding that love often protects us in ways we don't immediately recognize, without fanfare, without expectation, asking nothing in return. Please leave a like on this video and share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to The Gentle Bond for more incredible true stories of love, loyalty, and the magic that happens when a pet becomes family.